Today is a day that I am adding new listings into one of my print on demand shops, and I thought it'd be fun to do a little updated listing workflow routine, take you through my process. If we haven't met before, hello, my name is Taylor. I quit my job 3 years ago to sell print on demand products. And what that looks like is I create really cute designs, put them on blank products, upload them to Etsy. That's my favorite platform to sell print on demand products. And then when somebody stumbles upon my products in the search results, clicks them, purchases them, my print providers actually make, manufacture, package, ship, and send it to my customer for me. So my role in all of this is creating more cute designs, uploading new listings, and that's what I'm going to show you today. Also, apologies for my voice. It might sound a little weird. It is currently the thick of allergy season, and your girl has allergy-induced asthma, really chronic asthma. So it's hitting at this point. All right, so my listing routine. Now, as somebody who is a chronic overthinker, I have dialed in my listing routine to get it to the point where I can be as efficient as possible while also creating really great high quality products. And so here's what that listing routine looks like. First thing that I always do is keyword research. From there, I then go into design research. Then I design my product or multiple designs. Next, I create my images. And then I post the listing. For my keyword research, I use two different tools. I like to use eRank and I like to use Everbee. I use them both in completely different ways. I find eRank helps me find specific opportunities, and then Everbee helps me validate those opportunities and find additional keywords and understand the nuance behind that specific niche, or if there's any other ways to refer to the niche, if there's other keywords that I just wouldn't have thought of that relate to it. So in my research so far this morning, this is one of the keywords that I have found that I think I want to start creating for. This is going to sound crazy. Just a girl who loves Halloween shirt. I know it's May, but if you go to your local Target right now or Walmart, you bet they're already starting to put out Halloween stuff. We want to make sure that we are doing the same if we're targeting these types of major events and holidays. And if we look at the search trend for this particular keyword, this is what actually appeals to me about it, is it starts to have its big spike of people looking for this category in August. In August, it has over 1,400 monthly searches, and it's a very low competition keyword, which is always the type of keywords that I'm looking for when I am adding new listings to my shops. Once I have a keyword like this is what I would call a bucket one keyword. This is how I do my SEO. I actually have a full video that walks through how I do SEO, how I find really good keywords. I'll link it up above for you to check out. But a bucket one keyword essentially is a keyword that is high search volume, low competition. And so I actually have a little tool that I created that helps me create my titles. So if I plug in this first keyword that I'm looking to use, just a girl who loves Halloween shirt, I want to see the search volume for July and I want to see the search volume for August. That is for the next 60 to 90 days, which is ideally what I want to be targeting when I'm adding new listings to my shops. So for July, this doesn't have, has very little search volume. So I'm going to put that in. It just has 10. And then for August, that's where that big spike is. It has 1,420. So I'll put that in. And then as far as competition, it has 1,274 other listings using this keyword. And if I click tell me my bucket, we can see, okay, beautiful. It's a bucket one keyword. Bucket one keywords, those are what I consider my visibility keywords. And they are just the starting component of getting listings seen in my experience. You also want to have other buckets of keywords. So really there's three main buckets. Bucket one is going to be more of that high search, low competition. Bucket two is going to be still high search volume, but a little bit more of like a medium competition keyword. And then bucket three, that is going to still be high search volume, always want high search volume, but also more competitive of a keyword. Like I said, I'll link that video. I'll put it in the description box as well if you want to understand like really exactly what all of that means, because I feel like I probably sound like I'm speaking a foreign language, but that is basically what I use for my keyword research. I want to make sure that I have keywords that fit into all of my buckets. And once I have all of my buckets filled and I have my title, then I am ready to go to design research and start designing. Okay, so I've done all of my keyword research and now I have my title. As I was doing my keyword research, I was plugging it into the keyword tool, and as I'm doing it, it's of course telling me my buckets, but then it's also making my title, and it's making it in the way that I make my titles. So this is something that I used to do literally on just Post-it notes. I write down all of my keywords on sticky notes and I would have it laid all across my desk, and it was working, but it was of course messy. So I actually created this tool with my mind injected into it. So basically it takes my mind and what I know to be true for creating really great titles that get your listings seen. And it makes all of those, or it takes all of those keywords that I have for my buckets and puts them into my title for me, as well as it is going to start off my tags. So already have all that I need as far as my SEO. And now I can actually go ahead and start doing design research and designing. Now, this is a design style that I have been seeing pop up absolutely everywhere. And it originally stemmed, I think that this originally stemmed from this. I'll put an image right here. But this was a design style that went insanely viral, and it then resulted in a bunch of different versions of pretty much the same concept with the same colors, just in different categories, different niches. Of course, then there's also tons of people just literally copying it for what it is. And then what I have found over the past few years, after something like that happens, where you get a very viral format, a very viral design style, it then starts breaking off into different iterations of that existing template. And so this is something that I'm starting to see a lot more now, where it's really the same bones. And I'll show you what I mean, but same bones, different color, just repurposed a little bit into slightly different niche, slightly different wording, different colors and whatnot. So let me show you what I mean by the bones are the same. I've made this template here, and I like to create these templates. I call them my design templates. And what they do is they help me basically see a design for what it is and not for the niche that it is, the colors that it has, or anything like that that would cause me to kind of like indirectly, subconsciously copy. Of course, that's never my intention, but I think sometimes when we're doing design research, it can, you can start to kind of accidentally copy if you are just being too literal with it or too like on the nose with it. So this is what I do that really helps me understand what the format is, what the structure is. And then I can take this template with the inspiration, the original inspiration completely out of mind. And it allows me to create something that's a lot more unique. And I found that I'm able to get much more sales by doing it this way as well, because then I'm creating something that doesn't look like everything else that is out there. With my template here, it's very literal. When I looked at this inspiration, I saw it for that there was word, big word, and another. It had word here, but in script font, small tiny text over here, and 2 graphics. And so I just literally word vomit that exact format and structure to my artboard. And then now I can use this to create and formulate my own unique design for the complete different niche and set of keywords that I'm targeting. Okay, so here's where we're at. You saw me create this design, and I'm a very visual person. So when I'm designing, I have to go between design and image multiple times. And when I'm doing so, sorry, I have this popping up too because I'm playing around with Kittle flows. I'm going to show you what that is giving me in just a second. But I need to see the design that I'm creating on the color of the product that I'm envisioning it going on. And so I like to create my artboard to be a similar color to what the product is. How I do that is I'll often bring up the mock-up and I will then just use the color dropper from here and pull it from the mock-up itself. But you also can just eyeball it. It doesn't have to be completely perfect. I just try to get it as close as possible so that I can see what the design looks like as I'm designing. And then I also bring in my mock-ups so that I am able to then put the design on the mock-up. This is where I make a lot of my little final tweaks because I just have found that it's very difficult for me to create a design on a blank white background, put it on mockups, upload it, and be good to go. There's always just little tweaks that I feel have to be made. If it's not presenting well on my mockups, if it doesn't look good on the mockups, then I don't feel confident that it's going to sell, because mockups are everything. Mockups genuinely sell your product. So this is what I do. All of this I'm doing in Kittl. If you've watched my videos before, you know I'm designing in Kittl all of the time. And one of the reasons that I love Kittl is because I can have just this big board of everything that I need to see for my listing. So this is a new project that I started in Kittl. So I typically name the project after that bucket one keyword that I'm going to be targeting, so that everything that I have for that keyword lives inside of one space or one project. And then my strategy and how I build out my niches, I always build a minimum of 25 designs for each niche that I'm pursuing. So I treat a niche as my bucket one keyword. In this instance, I'm doing the just a girl who loves Halloween. So I'm going to be creating a multitude of designs that fit under this umbrella of the keywords that I already researched and created a title and tags for. And so all of this is just the start of it. I really like how this design turned out. I think this is such a great example of finding inspiration, finding a template, and bringing it to a completely different category, bringing completely different colors, bringing different elements, really just making it different from what the original was. All of the bones are still there, so I'm still keeping that same structure that I created, but I've changed what actually fits into that structure. And so here's what my first listing of the day looks like. I have my mockups already done. Aside from this, I have a listing template, which my listing template has things like my size chart, color chart, which I always update my color chart to match the listing. I change my mockups and I change what colors I'm offering depending on the design, especially a design like this that's very color specific. So I'll update that and go ahead and put this into Printify, and then it will sync up with my Etsy shop, and this listing will be live. The other thing that I was doing here, I mentioned Kittl Flows. This is something that I love to do to get more inspiration. So because I'm creating 25, at minimum, I create 25 designs for each niche that I'm diving into, and 25 can sound like a lot. And so there needs to be some creative energy coming into play when you're creating that many designs. And so I, for one, don't create that many designs in one day. I at most create like 3 listings a day. I mainly am like a 1 a day kind of girl. And right now I've been listing weekly as opposed to daily in my shops. But this is really good for getting inspiration. So how this works, these are 2 different AI generated flows based off of this original design. So what I do to create this is, you'll see these little purple lines. I can take this line and I'll drag it down here, and we're going to create another AI image board. Now, I'm not a master prompter. What I'm going to just type in and say is, I want to create another design just like this, keeping the same theme of Halloween for women and style of graphics and text. And then I'll click generate. And these are 2 that it already has populated for me while this one is loading, which I think this one is super cute. Just a witch who loves her cat and coffee. Honestly, this is one that I would use as is. Sometimes it comes up with things that I wouldn't use as is. I think that you can use it for ideation. You can use it to help you create better and more original designs. This one I think is cute. I would probably play around with it. For one, it changed the background. I wouldn't put this on a orange shirt, so I would just change the color. But I like the phrasing. I wouldn't have thought of this on my own. I think this is super cute. Which way to the candy, with of course the play on words. This one is super cute. Oh my gosh. Okay. Which please. That's hilarious. I love that. So this is something that I have found also really helpful. They help me get more concepts, more phrasing, more ideas, and still staying true to a format that I've already found to work from my design research. So like I said, I'm going to go ahead and finalize this listing by just completing my listing images, uploading it to Printify, and syncing it over to Etsy so that the listing is live and ready to go. If you want to see an updated video about how I do my listing images, what I include in my listing images, let me know in the comments down below. That's something that I haven't talked about, I think, in a while. I have a video on my channel that's a very old video. So if you want to see a updated breakdown of that, let me know. Now, after my listings go live, tracking my listings, when I say tracking my listings, I am tracking all of the analytics on them. So the views, the favorites, and the sales mainly. And this is truly what has been the most helpful in actually growing my shops, getting consistent sales, and more importantly, seeing consistent profit in my shops month after month. I have found that I learn so much more from the listings of mine that don't sell than I do from the listings that do sell. A lot of the time when I have a listing sell, it kind of doesn't make sense to me always why it's sold. It's always the listings that I didn't really feel the most confident in, that I kind of just like threw out there. I was like, whatever, this is as good as it's going to get. And then I just put it up. Those are the ones that I feel like end up selling. So sometimes it leaves me with more questions than answers. But the listings that don't sell, I keep track of their views, their favorites. Of course, they're not selling, so just views and favorites mainly. And I'm looking at how many views and how many favorites they have at 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, and ultimately 120 days, which if they get to 120 days, that's when they are going to expire and no longer be active. Something incredibly nerdy about me is that I love patterns. I love understanding and dissecting patterns. I lay in bed and play Sudoku puzzles before I fall asleep. And so pattern recognition is something that my brain just eats up. And so what I have found is that there's a few different patterns that happen when I have a listing that I first list on Etsy, and throughout its life cycle, I like to call it, on Etsy for as long as it's active. That life cycle, if you're checking in and observing what's happening throughout it, you can start to understand patterns of what is happening in the listing and why it's not selling. And it'll point you to what needs to potentially be fixed or tweaked or something that you need to do differently. Now, just like with keywords, I used to do this all manually, just like on sticky notes on my desk. I was wasting a lot of paper, but I now have a tool that I use to actually track all of my listings. And so after my listings go live, I add them into my listing diagnostic tool, and I put in the name, the main thumbnail photo, the date that it was listed. I put a link to the listing, what product type, and I also put the niche as well so that I can filter and sort by tracking my Halloween listings, tracking my listings that are geared for back to school, for Mother's Day, for different professions, just any of the niches that I'm targeting. And after I have all of that in, I will save it so that it uploads into my listing tracker. And so here's an example of a listing that I'm tracking right now that's actually at its, or just past its 30-day mark. So at 30 days, this listing has had 12 views. It hasn't had any favorites and it hasn't had any sales. What my tool does is it then tells me what pattern it's trending towards. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean that this is how the listing is going to end. This isn't the forever pattern, but it is just what is happening right now. I've had listings that start at a certain pattern and then end up selling at the final check-in or right before the final check-in. I've had listings that have been trending towards one pattern up until the third check-in, and then the pattern changes. When I see a pattern in the beginning, I don't just automatically change the listing. I don't change any of my listings until they've actually gone through their whole life cycle. I want to see what that final diagnosis is and what that final pattern is with the listing. And then I'll make those adjustments and refresh the listing, renew the listing, and give it a second shot. Overall, this is just my workflow. This is what works for me. Be sure to check out the description box below. I will have links to everything that I've used and mentioned throughout this video. Also, Kittl, which is the design software that I use and love, they actually have provided me with a discount code specifically for my subscribers. So if you are wanting to try out Kittl for yourself, I have a link in the description box below with a discount code that you can use to save a little bit of money on your Kittl plan. With that being said, all of this process really doesn't mean anything if you are not tapping into demand, understanding what to look for in your keyword research, what to look for in your design research, and ultimately creating something that is in line with what people are looking for. So if you're not sure how to do that, then I want you to watch this video next.